everybody. I'm 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗀𝗀. This is 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗀𝗀, and we are the co-artistic directors of Fourth Wall Theater Company, and this is our Fourth Wall Beyond the Fourth Wall. So thank you for joining us, and our guest tonight is Alice Gatling. Hi, Alice. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
We're excited to have Alice, one of our dear, wonderful friends who we love, and Houston's so lucky to have as part of our artistic community. And so let's just kick this thing off. What do you want to talk about first, Mr. 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗀𝗀?
Well, let's start since we haven't really said much about Alice. Let's start by trying to remember what we've done together, because we've all worked together in a lot of different ways. So I think, Alice, and correct me if I'm wrong, the first time we worked together was at the Alley in the Crucible.
Was it the Crucible?
Well, or it was Our Lady of 121st Street or the Crucible. I can't remember which came first.
Well, it depends. Were you in the first one or the second one? What year were you in the Crucible? Because I did it twice at the Alley.
Wow.
When's the last time they did it? Well,
the last time they did it was after we did Our Lady of 121st Street.
So did you do it after or before?
James Black was Proctor, and Elizabeth was Mrs. Proctor, and I played Hale, and you were 𝗘𝗽𝗶𝗀, and Elizabeth Bunch played Mary.
Oh, if Bunch was in it, then that was the second time it was done.
Okay.
That was the second time it was done. So that means the first thing that you and I did together was actually Our Lady of 121st Street.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I have huge fond memories of Our Lady of 121st Street.
Our Lady of 121st Street is that show that, you know how you have a few that you will never forget the cast and you'll never forget the director and the experience. That's that show. Everyone in that show I still love today.
Oh,
I love that. That was the cast. That was the experience. And James Black was just phenomenal in how he cast that show. I mean, I could talk about that show all day. All day.
And he directed with a for me, at least, you know, having done a lot of shows at the Alley, James had this sort of hands-off approach. We'll just kind of, you know, every once in a while, just give you a little push. And it felt like he trusted all the actors, and just the feeling in the room was excellent.
It was excellent, and he really didn't have to do much, but that's part of what they say. Directing, you get the right cast, you can actually step back and let the cast do its job. But we literally would come to the theater, even if it was not our call time, just so we could watch the other scenes rehearse. Yeah. That's how awesome the other scenes were that we weren't in. And it was like, you know, we'd watch Adrian and Philip do their scene. And then when they walk off, Alex Morris and I would look at each other like, oh man. Pop that.
Wow, that's
and
so
then
fun.
You went right out and did it. Oh God.
That's great.
It was really it was that kind of a show. So we did that sometime in the early 2000s. Yes.
Yeah, that was the early 2000s. Because whatever it was the 10-year anniversary. It was 10 years from the time that it was first done, and then they came back, and it was a part of that. It was 10 years. Yeah. 10 years. Yeah.
So,
and wait, were you in the Exonerated with me as well?
Yes, I forgot. Yes, right. So we did that too. Another good experience for me. We directed it, and it felt, you know, again, very supported. Yes.
And it was interesting that he cast me in that, because I actually had auditioned to do the Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah.
And when I finished my audition, he looked at me and he said, "Who the hell are you?"
That's nice.
And I'm looking like, did I offend him? I'm like, so I'm like, you know, I'm saying, well, I'm new. I'm back in Houston. I was in New York, so I haven't been on the scene. I'm freshly back in Houston, and I'm teaching now, so I'm not really doing theater. And he says, well, I'm going to tell you this. You are really good, but I'm not going to cast you in this show. Okay. And he says, but the next show that I direct where I can cast you, you will hear from me.
Oh, it's good.
And it was The Exonerated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was that
Yeah,
kind
he kept his word. He called me for the exonerated.
I love that.
A true man of his word, and another gentle director who just knew when to push at the right time. So let's step back a minute. Let's let you introduce or tell a little bit of your story, because I'm realizing that I don't have it right in my head. Did you grow? Tell us what happened to make you an actor, and then kind of how your career went, and
it actually kind of went in a very around the way. I tell people this and they're like, oh, but when I was a child, and I'm saying maybe 3 or 4, we were living in New York. I'm out of New York City, the boogie down Bronx. And I was standing in my bedroom looking out. We lived like on the 14th floor. And I'm looking out over the park. And a voice spoke to me, and I saw a vision. And in the vision, I was standing on stage, and there were all these people in front of me. And a voice said, "You're going to be an actor."
Huh. That's amazing.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot hearing, "You're going to be an actor." I never per se pursued what the voice said, because if you asked me, like 7, 8-year-old, what do you want to be? A teacher. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. And I always said I wanted to be a teacher until my parents said, "Look, you are not going to be a teacher. They do not get paid enough. You will not be a teacher." So I was like, okay.
And then I'll take it down a step.
Yeah, it was like you were. Although here's the weird thing. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncles, all teachers. And I love teaching. I literally spent my summers teaching my younger sisters and brothers how to read.
Yeah.
I would go to the library at the end of the school year and ask for books and take them home, teach my siblings how to read. It was in me. But in the 6th grade, my father said, "You know what? You're going to be a newscaster."
Huh.
And he would make me watch Diana Fallis on the news. She was like the first African-American woman news reporter in Houston.
Uh-huh.
And so I watched the news to watch her.
Huh.
And from there, he was like, "You're getting on your speech and debate teams so you can learn how to speak."
Wow.
So speech and debate actually led me into acting while I was in training to be a news broadcaster.
Yeah.
And how did you were you in Houston by that time?
We were in Houston.
So you moved.
We had just moved to Houston like the end of my 5th grade year. So the 6th grade was pretty much like my first year in Texas.
Did you start your professional career in Houston or in New York?
I did. I started here. And even then, because once I really said, "You know what? I want to be an actor." And my parents said, "No, you will not be an actor." They do not have morals. So you will not be an actor.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good to know.
And I was like, okay, so I could only do speech and debate. Like I couldn't do school plays. I couldn't do any of that. I could only do speech and debate. And part of that was because they didn't realize how many acting events are involved.
Speech and debate, right. You got duet, you got the drama and comedy monologues. You got all that in there.
All that. So when it was time for me to go to college, I was like, I want to major in theater. And my mother was like, "No, you will not. You can make that a minor, but you are going to major in telecommunications with an emphasis in radio, TV, film." I'm okay with that. I will still be in front of the camera. I'll make that work. Well, right before I was to go to TSU, I wanted to pick up my girlfriends to go to the movies, and we borrowed my mom's car. And you remember they used to have the Zest magazine in the Sunday paper?
Yeah.
So I'm going through the Zest to find what movies are playing, and I come across the theater section. And I read a blurb. I'll never forget it as long as I live. The name of the play was Under Heaven's 𝗘𝗽𝗶𝗀 by J.E. Franklin. And the description said, a young Black girl's coming of age story. And at 18, I thought, I'm a young Black girl coming of age. So without telling my mom, I snuck downtown to the Ensemble Theater, because I wasn't even supposed to drive on freeways back then. I snuck downtown, found my way to the Ensemble, watched that play, and everything in my soul opened up and said, this is your home.
Oh,
and that's where I started.
Awesome.
So that's where you started, and
at the Ensemble.
Yeah.
Not as an actor though. I first had to sweep the floors. I had to be the house manager. I had to see. It took, because back then you had to audition to make it into the company before you could get cast to be on the stage.
Okay.
So George Hawkins, bless his heart, I love him. I love him. He just saw something in me. So, and he sat me down. He said, I want you to be more than an actor. You need to learn it all. So he had me taking set design, and then I'd come back to the ensemble and design the show. He had me doing light design. Then I came back and designed the lights. I did costume design as a class, then came back and designed costumes. Then I started winning a lot of awards in technical theater.
Oh, yeah.
I still hadn't gotten on the stage yet. I spent all those years doing technical theater.
Well, there's your amazing directorial skills too.
Yeah, that's,
you
I
know,
was going to say the same
and
thing.
being a teacher. I believe that too.
Yeah, I think it all worked together. Yeah. It all just worked together. Yeah.
I agree.
So that's how I got started. Ensemble theater.
Great.
And then you went to New York?
And then, yeah, after I built up quite a resume here.
Yeah.
I built up I had done quite a few shows at the Alley, quite a few shows at the Ensemble. I started directing here in Houston and down in Galveston. And then I saw Phantom of the Opera. It was touring. Remember that first tour? And they talked about how that big chandelier was coming in. And
come down and yeah.
Yes, and I was running the music hall. Y'all remember the music hall in the Coliseum? I was a part of the management team running those facilities.
Oh.
So I snuck over to Jones Hall, saw the show, and was like, whose mind thought of this? So then I saw Hal Prince, or Harold Prince. And I was like, I've got to go to New York. I've got to go to New York. I've got to see this guy. I've got to meet this guy.
Oh.
And I happened to look in American Theater magazine, and the Lincoln Center was recruiting for its second year of directors to come into the director's lab. Yeah. And they were taking applications from people all over the world. They didn't care where you were. I sent in my application, said, I really want to do this. And within a week and a half, they were like, you're accepted. So I moved to New York.
Hey, there you go.
Did you ever meet Hal Prince?
Yes! Oh my God, the story of that. Okay. In the director's lab, it was amazing. They literally brought everyone you needed to know that was a name in New York was brought into that lab so that the directors could meet them. So my boy, Daniel Banks, is the one who's bringing in Hal Prince. And I'm sitting there and I'm just staring at this man like, I can't speak. I cannot believe it. He's brilliant. The work, how he talks about the work, what he's saying that I should be thinking about, such as don't work all year long. He's like 3 months out of the year, I do not think about theater. I don't touch theater. That's my downtime so that when I come back to theater, I have a breath of fresh air. He was the one who was like, worst thing happened to theater, grad school.
Oh.
And then I go to grad school.
Yeah, right.
You're a really ugly segue after that.
I know.
Well, I've never been.
You see? And as I'm sitting there staring at him, he just stops in mid-sentence and turns to me and says, yes. I'm like, my hand wasn't up. But I'm like, if you're gonna call on me, and then I'm like, I just let him know, I'm so impressed with you not only as an artist, but as a man. I'm impressed with you. Tell me more about your projects and how you are coming about deciding which projects. And then he and I just had a conversation while everybody else was sitting around listening
Oh, it's
to the
great.
conversation. And that was the only time, except he told Daniel, he's like, who was the girl in the green? And because I left immediately, like the energy between him and I were so strong that I'm like, if you shake his hand, you're gonna pass out. So I immediately left the room and went home. And no sooner than I got back to Staten Island, Daniel was calling saying, where are you? Hal Prince is asking about you.
And you're like, I'll faint now. Yeah.
And I'm like, so what am I supposed to do with that? He said, you need to call him. You need to talk to him. I'm like, I can't. And I never contacted him. I regret that to this day. I regret that to this day.
Well, you know, you're young, when you're young and you're meeting big people, it's scary and it's intense and it's huge. I know I met some very big people when I was young and learning about directing. I remember being in the room and being able to shadow Mike Nichols for a while, and he would talk to us and I would be, and I'm pretty bold, you know that, and I would be like,
yes,
Both bold.
we both are, we're very similar. But I would be in the back going, excuse me. And God forbid I wanted to ask him something that I didn't understand why he was doing it because I didn't agree. I wouldn't even ask. I'd be like, well, you're wrong. So just shut up and go home and try to figure out why you're wrong. Because but he was so nice and I just was scared to death, you know.
yes.
So it's hard when you're young and you're learning and it's new and you love everything and people who you idolize. So I know it's hard to have a regret. I have regrets that I didn't talk more to Mike Nichols, and I'm just like, well, you at least got to watch and you had a giant conversation. That's amazing.
I did. But, you know, it's one of those things. So that's how I got started, you know, in New York, then ended up coming back here. New York was a hustle too. That was a hustle too, because I became a company member at People's Light and Theater Company outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I was also with the Directors Lab and living on Staten Island. And then I also had an apartment at People's Light. So it was a crazy schedule doing theater in two major cities at the same time. Like literally I would rehearse in Philly, get out of rehearsals, jump in the car, drive 3.5 hours to get into Manhattan. So I could be there to do a show that night. And as soon as the show was over, I'd jump back in the car, drive back to Philly, because I refused to sleep. My motto became, wherever you have to work first is the city you sleep in.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's tough. That's a lot of driving and a lot of dedication.
Yeah, yeah. Wore me out.
Did the People's Light job come about through just a blind audition, or did you know someone? How did that happen?
That happened, believe it or not. My cousin was a company member at People's Light.
Oh.
And she's a fabulous actress. She's trained out of Carnegie Mellon. And I went to see her in a show at People's Light. And when this young up-and-coming director, David Bradley, was directing a part of the AT&T family project, he remembered meeting me and spoke to my cousin and said, do you think she would be interested in coming in to audition? Meanwhile, I was in Virginia doing summer stock. So I had to drive in from Virginia for the audition, and he cast me on the spot, and David and I became really close. That's one of my boys there. And then from there, I ended up getting cast in a couple of more shows. And after you've done a number of shows, that's when they extend the invitation to become a company member. So that's how that came about, which was fabulous because my cousin is like a sister to me. Yeah. So we were both working there, and then she got married to another company member. So the three of us are like this.
Yeah, maybe would you mind telling our audience a little bit about People's Light, because they're an unusual theater company. I know only a little bit about them, but go ahead. If you
They are People's Light definitely works for their community. They're outside of Philadelphia in Malvern, Pennsylvania. So they truly cultivate theater for that community and keep that community involved. Like there's nothing to walk on People's Light and you see the neighborhood at People's Light. It is a true neighborhood community. Although they are equity theater, top notch, it's very much a family of artists that work together. And I just adore being there.
Is that approach because of the people who ran it then? They were Europeans or Polish, I think, weren't they?
I think they were. I can't remember now. And it's funny because I'm looking at her face and now I can't think of what the artistic director, Abigail.
I'm sorry. Wasn't there someone named Giorgee Awards or a husband and wife team? I thought it was
Blanca. You're thinking about Blanca. That's at the Wilma Theater.
So I'm talking about the wrong theater.
You're talking about the wrong theater. That's the Wilma Theater. My cousin is also a company member there as well. She's a company member at the Wilma Theater.
So I had the whole wrong theater in mind.
Yes.
But anyway, so good. That I didn't know that. When you answered, I was like, well, that doesn't sound like the theater I'm talking about. But
No, you're talking about because they're very the Wilma Theater's approach is very experimental.
That's
They have an experimental approach to, so yeah, their approach is a little different. They totally believe that their company members are trained. You never stop training. You never stop training.
We believe.
Yeah, so they're constantly in workshops and being challenged as artists, physically, creatively. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the theater, the People's Light is where you worked on the Lucas Nath play, right? The Hillary and Clinton play. Is that correct?
No, actually, I did that with not PLTC, PTC, Philadelphia Theater Company.
Philadelphia Theater Company. Okay.
Yeah, Philadelphia Theater Company.
I love that play, and I always, when I first read it, there we go. There you are. I was really excited to see that you were part of the original work on that show because I just think it's such a great play, and we're big Lucas Nath fans, and
really.
So, yeah, we should flip through your other photos right now for our audience about just some of the things we collected. Why don't we flip through those, Catherine? We have Catherine with us, our marketing and development coordinator, helping go through some. I saw you had this shirt on, don't you?
I have a shirt on, Sassy Mama.
Shirt from Ensemble.
Yes, in honor of my girl 𝗕𝗃𝗏 Award. Yes.
So that's just one of many ensemble performances, but we just pulled some nice, fun photos for you. There's Mousetrap, which was a recent alley show. You got to do a summer. I know you do Summer Chills often. Yes, is that correct? Have you done?
No, actually, that was my first Summer Chill.
Oh, I thought
that was my first Summer Chills.
Oh, that's a great play. So that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, and I absolutely love dying in the first act.
Excellent. That's a good paycheck. Wow, that was a good, fun couple scenes, and I'm reading my book. Wonderful. What's next? There's ours. There's me and Al.
Yes, this is where you directed me. This was great. This was a good piece to do in my return back to the Houston audience.
Yeah, I thought, when I read the play, and of course Jennifer and Kevin are very good friends of ours, and we just love them and love what they're doing over there. And I read it, and I don't know about you, Alice, but I thought, I liked the play. I love the story. But I was like, gosh, there's like 400 scenes in this play. I was like,
but the way you directed it, it worked wonderfully. Between you and Kevin Rigdon, oh my gosh,
well,
works
Kevin
wonderfully.
Makes things so easy when he and I talk and sit down, and I'm sure you know how great he is. And
let's tell our audience who we're talking.
Yeah, Kevin Rigdon is he's the designer at the Alley and the head designer and head of the tech school at University of Houston. Mm-hmm. And he's a two-time Tony nominated founding member of 𝗕𝗏𝗆 Theater Company. So He is a generous, amazing human being who works with some of us smaller theaters and helps us have the opportunity to work with Tony-nominated world-class designer.
Yeah.
So he's done a few plays at Fourth Wall. I just love him. He's always top-notch, comes in the room, helps you solve problems like 400 transitions. Which worked beautifully. The show ran like clockwork. It was wonderful. I had a world-class cast of people I love. So that really made it easy too.
Yeah.
So you guys are also great.
The interesting thing with this show, I literally, before every show, had to walk that show because there were so many scenes, and to know where was I exit here, I enter here, I exit here, I enter here, I change here, and then I'm back out here. Like I literally had to walk it to keep that pattern in my head so that I wouldn't get confused about where do I go next, you know?
It was a hard show for you. The transitions are showing themselves, and for at least the way I had directed it and you did so beautifully and Kevin did, you guys are coming into every scene in character and in some kind of almost like the middle of a sentence or the middle of some kind, like you've come from one place to another much more specifically than sometimes other plays with a transition that we didn't want to go more than 15, 20 seconds.
Right.
So it was really fast, and then you're aging and getting really old.
I know. Yeah. Hey, did you see the movie?
I did not see the movie. It
it's okay.
So fast.
It
wasn't so great.
It wasn't that it wasn't so great. It's just, I think it plays better in this arena than it does on film.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, as much as you think something might not be as good because transitions or all kinds of business, the intensity of people going through really difficult things live is sometimes so much better than when you try to fill in the whole community and much more loud, like the loud noise of what tension is, rather than let it just be between the people who the tension is between.
Right.
And focus that very specifically.
I can tell you, I get stopped behind this show more than any other show since I've been back in Houston.
Wow, that's great. Well, you were great.
People will stop me. Where are you in? Yes.
Well, that's great. Well, let's see what else we got. So I'm glad we got to do that together, Alice. I hope it's one of many. And Black Girl Sings. Did you know that I auditioned for that role that Susan Cousin played?
No,
I did. I'm very happy Susan got it. She was fantastic. I did see it, and you two were fantastic.
Wonderful.
But that was when I was pretty new back to town, and I'm glad I got to audition, and that's when they were getting to know me over there. But she was just beautiful. You two were beautiful together. That was a really
good show changed my career.
Oh.
In what way?
One, I had never done a show, because in that show, I think I had 18 songs I had to sing.
You sang a lot.
And even to get cast, I had 8 callbacks.
Oh, wow.
8 callbacks. And I literally told Alex Morris, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. Because if they want me, they should have cast me by now. Why is Brad Dalton calling me back in again? And he said, go one more time. And if they don't offer you the role, walk away. And that is the time that they gave me the role. Good. So it was one, knowing that I could hang through all those callbacks.
Well,
especially because they auditioned some top-notch singers in this city.
There's a lot of great singers in Houston, Texas.
But that's a role where the singing is important, but you have to have an actor.
You've got to have a great actor.
Yes. And so that's why they chose me. But then from there, I got a call from Florida Studio Theater.
Oh.
And they were like, we're doing a reading of this play. The actors we cast can't do it. Can you come in? The playwright is highly recommending you. And so my principal, bless her heart, Sarah Hardy, gave me a week off from school to go to Florida to do the reading. The reading got a standing ovation.
Oh.
And the theater called and said, we have to mount this show. And that's when I quit teaching. And I went back to acting full time.
Oh, that's great. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's really.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
That voice keeps saying you're going to be an actor.
Give us the next one, Catherine. What else do we have? Did we pull together here for her? Oh, look at that. That's such a great play. That's so great. Oh, Lynn Nottage.
Oh my God.
Is the amazing Lynn Nottage.
Who's the other actor in that?
Yeah, who is that?
That's 𝗕𝗲. 𝗕𝗲 Dawn Martin, but she got married, so Josiah. I don't know, but that's 𝗕𝗲. And do you know this corset? These beautiful corsets were designed by Tony Whitaker. Do you know Tony Whitaker?
Oh, I don't. Tell us who Tony Whitaker is.
She is in Houston as a designer. She's very well known.
Okay.
Oh.
She is, I mean, her fashions are just jaw-dropping.
Okay.
Jaw-dropping.
So she does.
She does fashion
as well as
design
theater?
more so.
She does fashion design, but Main Street asked her to design these corsets.
Oh,
And oh my God, you see this one, but no. Though the other corsets were so exquisite and so beautiful that I was like, can I please buy this corset? And she refused to sell the corset to us. She refused. Tony Whitaker.
That's no fair. Maybe she still has it.
No, she said that. No, she came to me a couple of years ago and she said, I should have given you those corsets because someone stole them.
Oh no, well that's what you get for not selling it.
Karma.
Karma. It'll get you.
Yes, because I would have framed that thing. It was so exquisite. This was a fabulous thing. Ron Jones directed that.
Oh, he's such a sweet man. Such a
yes, he is.
Prodigy there for directing. Been around forever. That's great. He's wonderful.
Oh, and she was also Mrs. Texas.
Ah.
𝗕𝗲 was Mrs. Texas.
Yeah, well, beautiful lady. Absolutely. Do we have anything else on here? I think we got one or two more.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
And there's a world premiere you did out at Arden Theater.
Yes, that's in Philadelphia as well. The playwright on this, I'm looking right at his face. I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, how do I not remember his name? But anyway, Under the Skin, which was, have y'all read this play?
No.
Oh,
good. Uh-oh, can you send it to me?
yes, I will send it to you.
Right? Good. I'll read it and then I'll buy a copy too to support the playwright. So, but this way I can.
Michael Hollings. He wrote the Red Speedo.
Oh.
No, that's
Lucas. That's Lucas Nath wrote the Red.
Okay, now I'm confusing them.
Okay.
But his name is Michael Hollinger. Thank you. Look at that, Catherine.
There you go.
I got the script. The artistic director, Terry Nolan, sent me the script and said, we're going to do this reading. I think they wanted my cousin for it. She wasn't available to do it, which kind of what happens in Philly. If they can't get Melanie Finister, then they go for her, cousin Alice. And so I read the script and literally, I'm not even going to lie to you. I took the script and threw it across the room and said, no, he didn't.
Oh.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
No, he didn't. And then I had to get up and go get the script because I'm like, what is next? Threw the script again. I'm like, who is this person writing this kind of stuff in a play? And so when I got to the reading and he walked in, I was like, come right on over here. Who are you? Who are you? Because this script, when I throw a script across the room, you've done something.
Yeah.
You've done something.
Awesome.
But it was fabulous. So we did it at the Arden Theater, and then the Everyman Theater called me to do that as well.
Oh, good. That's nice. Oh, well, that's great. And I think, Catherine, do you have one more? I think you have one more thing. Yeah, there's a.
We believe we have a YouTube.
Yeah, we have a video, but we don't know if it'll play. We're gonna try from your award for outstanding lead actress.
I don't think I've ever seen this.
Fierce, brave, cruel, remarkable. This is a wonderful story about art.
Well, maybe it's frozen. I think it's long. Oh.
And divine judgment. Oh, God. God, it's beautiful. God, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. How could you? It's beautiful. I disagree. Why? I have a responsibility to protect my students. From what? From things like this. Damaging things. Poetry. Hate-filled, poisonous attacks. Oh, God! He was passing this around to a room full of children. What do you think children are? I know what they are. I work with them for them every day. All right, what are they? Fragile. Fragile. Bullshit. Children are not fragile. They're stronger than any of us. That's not true. Yes, it is true. You want children to be something they are. Protected. Innocent. It's some ridiculous Victorian era idea we've inherited about childhood. That it's sacred and that children are innocent and pure and they want to be that way to stay that way. It's ridiculous. Childhood is not a suspended state of innocence. It is the condition of rapidly losing. You asked me what I expected you to be like. You can't stop that from happening. Yes. You shouldn't want this. Am I wrong? Yes. Oh, God. I put him here into a pit full of the unenlightened, into the hands of the vigilant. To accept responsibility is what I expected.
Oh, there's a Best Actress award. There it is.
That's great.
I've never seen that. Where did you get that from?
It was on, I think it's on YouTube.
You're in public.
You're in the public domain, my friend.
Forever.
You're out there.
Oh my God. Have y'all seen that play?
No.
Another one.
Did Stages do that play?
I think Stages did it here. I don't know who
Carolyn
did it.
Johnson did it. I think Carolyn did it, didn't she?
She directed it or she was in it?
No, I think she was one of the teachers. Or
oh, she was the teacher?
It up with something else. She did something where she was a teacher or a parent. Is this about a dead student?
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense. Well, if it's it should be intense. That play, in order for me to do that play, oh my God, like I cried every time I had to get in the car and drive to the theater.
Oh, yeah.
I literally cried. It was like, you're going to have to go there again. You're going to have to get raw and feel all those emotions and pain again.
Yeah.
And you have to go there, like as a mother, and to be truly authentic about what was happening. I was depleted, literally. Every night when that show was over, I had nothing to give to anyone, not even myself. That's how draining that show was. But it was so powerful that when the other actress and I would leave my my KK, as we would walk to our cars, people who had seen the show would pull up and ask us questions about the show.
Yeah.
Because they were like, give us an answer. Somebody needs to offer us an answer to what we just watched. And we're like,
you got to go out and figure that out yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just said something that I want to follow up on. You just said you would cry before you would go to work because it was so hard to do and intense and draining. I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's how I took it. So explain, I know, and Kim knows, but explain to people who might be watching, why do we do this to ourselves?
And the truth is, I ask myself every time I'm getting ready to go on stage, why do you do this? And one of the things I tell my students, if I'm not nervous before I go on that stage, I make myself nervous. It's like that, you have to. You've got to be alive, you got to be alert, you've got to be snapping, everything, nerves, everything has to be on high alert. Yep. So that when you get out there, that audience feels something from you when you walk on the stage.
Yeah. But you might, do you like that feeling though? I mean,
I don't like that feeling, but here's how I approach this. And it got me into, I don't want to say a lot of trouble when I was in grad school, but I definitely was put through the ringer. I didn't learn how to act in a class because when I was studying theater at Texas Southern, it was mainly technical theater. I became aware and learned what to do in terms of speech and debate, the power of standing in one spot and totally using my gift to bring everything to an audience so that you feel everything I need you to feel. And guess what? I'm not even going to move. I'm going to create characters in front of you, and they're going to be created. The tilt of a head, turn here, and you got it.
Yeah.
So there was a strength that was developed in that.
Yeah.
When I transitioned to stage work, I approached it understanding that I had a lot to lose because I was doing something without my parents' permission. And so I went into it praying, and it was prayer. And it was, I need you to show me, Lord, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And all I would hear is, get out of the way. Get out of the way and let the character come in. So when I do that, I'm understanding I'm just a vessel. This character is going to use my body and my voice to tell their story. And every time that I tried to get in, it didn't work. Like I'd come off the stage feeling like, oh, that sucked. But when I'm completely removed, and it's weird because y'all remember when Beyonce I know like Beyonce, but anyway, you remember when Beyonce received all that flack because she said, when I'm on stage, it's not me, it's Sasha Fierce. There's another character that comes in and does that show for me. It's not me, Beyonce, it's her. Well, that's how I approach theater. I get out of the way and I let that character come in. So for that mother who has to deal with feeling like a failure, my child has committed suicide, and I'm so lost and so confused that I still go to the parent-teacher meeting because I need something to make sense, because if I go back home, I'm gonna be in that house, in the exact house where my child committed suicide upstairs. That is just to think of the emotional, the mental turmoil, the heart-wrenching ache of that you just want to take your heart out and put my heart over here so I can stop feeling.
Right.
And all of that would just come down. Look, I'm going back through it again.
No,
but
right.
it would come back down on me when I'm thinking, you got to go back and tell the story again.
Right.
And I was talking to Alex and I'm like, in life, someone close to you will die one time and you're going to make your way through it and then you move on. In theater, that person is going to die 8 times a week.
Or 8 times. Well, yeah. Not in my theater. I only have to do it 4 times.
or 14. So you get how many times your body has to go through all of that pain over and over and over. And I'm like, and my body is responding to the stimuli. So the stimuli is still the same. So the response is the same. It doesn't know, oh, she just acting this time. My body just says the pain is here. The pain is back.
You know, that you brought up something I think is great that I tell my students a lot, that you just reiterated in a wonderful way for me, that if any of them are listening, I always tell my students to get the word natural out of their vocabulary, because so many students think they're supposed to just be natural when they act, which is casual. And I always say there's nothing natural about your child committing suicide or your mother dying by being hit by a car. The circumstances you're going to go through are not natural, and they're going to require you to go through emotions and judgments and actions that are not natural in your day-to-day life, and you need to get out of the way of how you will behave in unnatural circumstances.
Right.
Yeah, so you just said that in a really beautiful manner of how to get out of the way. And that's not being you, because you in your logical brain will try to plot out how to do it to cause yourself the least amount of pain as possible. You'll try to say, I can show you, which showing instead of actually in doing it. I'll show you what it would look like, but the audience goes, I don't buy that. But what you're talking about is saying, I'm going to have empathy and step into the shoes of what this is. I'm not going to be if I'm ugly, if I'm whatever it may be, to go through this, I'm going to go through it. Yeah. And you just explain something I try to say all the time and they don't get it. And it was a beautiful way of explaining something that people like us who work on our craft and take our craft as something that's an experience that you do every night, that's not necessarily repeated, but is repeatable if you give over to a certain criterion of behavior that you do that allows an open door.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And in removing myself, there are times that I literally can totally do a divorce. Like I can hover in that room and totally watch me on stage doing the show.
That's great. For me, that's normally a bad experience. That's normally me quitting. Not okay. But it's normally me going, I'm not connected. For me, sometimes it's like the director brain for me. When I feel like that, it's like, I'm going, oh, you're bad. For me, I don't have that experience that often when I'm actually doing good, when I'm actually in. I usually have it when I've checked out a little and I'm going, oh, you're faking right now. You're just trying to put it on. So that's interesting that you can have that experience in the intensity of really being involved. I wish I could.
Well, and not only does it happen on stage, but where it mainly will happen is if I'm doing film work. Wow. If I'm doing film work, and part of this is being a telecommunications major, and calling shots when you're the director standing in the film booth, and as the cameras are rolling, you can say take camera 2 and tell camera 3, I need you to do a close up, da 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 da. I in film can totally know, like I see it. It's like I see the shots and I know how to work the camera based on shots. Now that may sound very weird.
No, I mean, but you've been doing this a long time, and the gifts and the ability that come to you after years of doing something are really interesting, so that things become intuitive. And I'm a Meisner trained artist, and Sanford Meisner used to say all the time, it takes 20 years to be a great actor. And what he meant by was it takes 20 years for it to just do it by itself. You no longer have to think about why your craft works or what happens. It's all intuitive reaction now. So a lot of what you're talking to me about is I can see it because everything's happening so intuitively to me to a certain degree that I don't even have to think anymore about how I'm doing it.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this camera to focus. What do I look out of
It
focus?
was focused just fine. I don't know what you did, Alice. There you go. You must have bumped it or something. But anyway, well, how about this? We have about 10 minutes left. What do you want to talk about, Alice? What kind of things are there that you want to share with us?
We have more questions, but if there's something
I knew we wouldn't get through them all.
No. I enjoy answering questions. I'm curious though, in terms of what is theater going to be like when we come back?
You tell me.
You're asking the wrong people.
We are really at a loss right now, because we really want to do things right, and we want to have a theatrical experience when we go to the theater. So when we can actually come back where we can have something happen that is that, even if it's less audience, but actors aren't in masks and actors can interact, and we have a set of guidelines in that makes people feel like they're okay, but we have a show, and maybe we have a little bit less people in the audience, but we don't want to have to block a show where people are 6 feet apart and it's not natural and nothing is people would
I'm liking those theaters that are doing one-person shows.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's being creative, know. I was talking to someone like, but you're gonna get tired of seeing a one-person show. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't get tired of seeing one-person shows, like I don't get tired of watching a good comedian.
Yeah. We've invested.
You're telling a story. I like sitting and listening to storytellers.
Yeah, a good story is a good story. We've definitely looked at some people we know who have one-person shows. So
yes, but I'm also curious, in light of the times.
Yes.
How are theaters, like a lot of theaters put out statements.
Yeah.
In view of support and speaking out against things that have been happening in our country. But now I'm curious to see what happens when it's time for us all to go back to work together.
Yeah. So we're talking about Black Lives Matter now, I think.
Yes. And well, I don't want to just limit it to just Black Lives Matter, but speak it out against racism and totality.
I think that a lot of I'll speak for myself. A white liberal guy who always thought he was pretty woke found out that maybe he wasn't as awakened as he could be, and I think that a lot of us really had to look in the mirror when this stuff started going down, and when activists started to say, hey, you need to make a statement. Okay, we'll make a statement. And then they said, but then what are you actually going to do? And so for us, it has started a lot of conversations among our staff and our board. And now I'm talking about a group of, 13 white people. Well, 12 white people and 1 Asian person. And so right there, we know something has to change. We have a bunch of white people talking about how to solve a problem. Black Lives Matter, and it's ridiculous.
Right. We're both talking a lot to our friends that are Black, so we can say, hey, you guys tell us, because I believe, for me, I've done a lot of trying to be quiet and listen, because I don't know. I want to do the right thing, and I hope you feel like you're my friend. I feel like I'm your friend, and that for me, I really believe that I have probably not done as well of a job as I should have done. And that for me means I have to listen to other people, because it means I don't know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing to create a better equality in my theater and a better set of opportunities, and to figure out how to get better representation across the board, then somebody else has to tell me how to do it, because I'm failing. And that's okay. I think life's about failures and successes and
figuring it out. And here's the other thing that I will say in connection with that. Ouch. Oh, Lord, I'm getting old. Charlie horse in my leg. I'm telling people it's a very simple question. A very simple question. I remember when I decided to go into public education, and I had to take the test. And a good friend of mine, Angela Flowers, she said, I said, oh, I'm so nervous about taking this test. If I fail this test. And she said, ask yourself this one question before you answer any of the questions in the test. And I'm like, what? What is the best thing for the student? Okay, so that's how I approach the test and ace the test. My thing is, your question should be, what would I want?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
That's a good
And
way.
if you answer that question for yourself, then you know the guide of where to go. It's that simple. What would I want for myself? Do I want to be included on the board? Yes, I want to be included on the board. Okay, well then I know that's what I need to do. I need to include you on the board.
Nice.
It's a very simple question. What would I want for me?
Well, that seems like a very
I think that's good
easy way
advice.
to
Maybe we can
get
apply it.
started, and an easy way to approach people too. It's a very loving, open, easy way for us to think about how we approach people too. It doesn't, because that's one of the things too for me is I'm when we talk about how much we care as because artists do care. I mean, I do believe most artists care. Of course, some people have their own agendas more so, but I think people get afraid. They're like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And that's a really wonderful, just fundamental question to put right in front of yourself when you want to approach anyone, to ask for help, for advice, to make suggestions, to do anything. It's just like, if I put that foot forward first in my thinking, how bad can it go? And that's really helpful.
Yeah. And you start and it doesn't become complicated.
Yeah.
If you it's like so when individuals like we're listening, I can just tell you, especially during this time of processing, as an African American right now, we've got a lot that we're working through.
Sure.
But the gist of what needs to change doesn't lie with us.
Right. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't lie with us. And it's complicated for us to give you the answers that you could literally get to if you just say, what would I want?
Yeah.
If I was in your shoes, what would I want?
Yeah. I've tried
and then just work from there.
You're absolutely right. And that's a good, wonderful way to start it. I think I've tried to think a little bit about it from when the Me Too movement actions happened, and it's not the same, but don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diminish anything, but I was so angry with a lot of things that had happened to me in my career with inequalities and inappropriate behaviors and things. And I thought, gosh, and this is small compared to what Black people have gone through. And I was furious, and I didn't feel like anyone was talking to me correctly or taking me serious. And so I've tried to think a little bit about that and know that that was to me, a smaller problem than what African-American, Black Americans have gone through over the last 100 and whatever years it is, even more than that, 400 years really.
Right.
And I'm like, my God, break it down and make it simple. What do I want? How would I wanted someone to treat me during the Me Too movement, from my abuse, the things that happened to me? And it was much more simpler than most people made it. Yeah. So that's great advice. And I will take that to heart. And I will do that.
But we still might call you and ask.
Yes, we will. We probably will.
I'm just to the point where it's like, enough is enough. Yeah. It has to end. It just has to end.
Well,
and be over with. And no longer a question.
I totally
It's
agree.
heartening to see that I mean, in poll after poll, we see that things, at least in people's minds, things have changed. Finally, things have changed. I don't know if you're seeing these polls about questions over, questioning white people what they think. And
I haven't seen the polls. What do the polls say?
Well, I've read a Harvard study poll where the numbers came back about how many people after George Floyd incident, the horrible death of George Floyd, the numbers came back about how many white Americans actually now believe that there is a racial problem in America. And the normal numbers skew at about 50%, and it came back at like 78%. And the Harvard people who read the poll said, well, this has to be bad data. We've never had numbers this high in a poll. And they went back and tested all the information where the data came from. And it was like 2 weeks after the incident in the beginning of the protest. And the polls were accurate. So that was really encouraging to me, that it is causing an uprising that's so big that it's breaking poll numbers that have never been seen before in any kind of injustice that's happened.
Yeah.
Kind of race,
Yeah. Wow.
homosexual,
Wow.
above women's rights, anything. The numbers are higher than any kind of reckoning that we've seen.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
that's
know that.
encouraging to me. We still have to keep it
That's
up.
very encouraging. That's very, very encouraging, because it's saying that they're getting to the point of saying enough is enough as well. It's like, this just is ridiculousness at this point. It needs to be squashed. Things have to be righted that have been wronged for so long.
Yeah.
So that we can move on. And I think it's one of the things I enjoy in terms of teaching high school students.
Yeah.
You just have your thumb is on the pulse of this next generation that will be taking care of me at some point.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, right.
and where some people are like, oh, I'm so scared of this next generation. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. If you're scared of them, it's because you're not connected to them. You're not talking with them. You're not seeing where their head is, because the way they think it's very, there's an A and there's a B. There's no, oh, well, actually there's a da-da-da-da. No. There's a right and there's a wrong.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. It's people who get older who have something to lose that start making things gray.
Yeah.
And that's what's wonderful about youth. They don't have a bunch of money yet. They don't have all these jobs. So they're very motivated to do what's right. And that's so encouraging and wonderful and important. So well, we better wrap this up
now
pretty
we
soon.
have to ask the stupid question.
We get our little like actor studio question.
Yeah, no, it's just, like, so I'll give you, so the question is there an actor, like a famous actor, who you like, who people would be like, what, you like that person? And I'll give you an example. I named Keanu Reeves because a whole bunch of reasons. I just love Keanu Reeves, even though maybe
he's not the best actor on the planet.
But whatever. So is there someone like that for you?
That I like, that you would look at and say, no, how in the world does she like them?
Yeah, or I don't know. It's just like it's almost like a guilty pleasure, or like,
that I sneak and watch. I don't think so. But I can tell you this.
Or that you watch and you know is kind of bad, but you don't care. You're just like, I don't care. I just like that actor.
You don't have to.
That doesn't have to be one.
Zero.
No, I was gonna say, when I determined, without my parents' permission, to be an actor, I said to myself, I only want to take the roles that Diana Ross or Cicely Tyson would play.
Oh, yeah, see, now that's good. Now I have a little Cicely Tyson story. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, my first teacher in New York, when I went to New York, was Gene Frankel. And
really? Okay.
Yes, I studied with Gene Frankel for 4 years. And I don't know if you know that he directed The Blacks with
yes.
Cicely Tyson and James
yes.
Owen. And so he kind of discovered them, right? Because that was back when they were brand new. And Cicely Tyson came. He was another teacher, kind of like Lincoln Center would have you guys, have all the directors come and talk to you guys. Well, he would have all the actors of his past come and talk to us about acting and, our career and craft, blah, blah, blah. Well, Cicely Tyson came and spoke to us. And she was magnificent. She was the sweetest, most lovely, giving. She would touch everyone too. She wanted to touch everyone. She was just, I adored her. So little Cicely Tyson, me to you.
That's so cool.
She was really cool. Anyway.
Hey, there are two things that have come up. If you can you spend another 5 minutes with us?
Yes.
So one is that Eric Lombardi and Deborah Laporte have commented a couple of times. And Deborah is the mother of Jennifer Laporte and her husband Eric Lombardi. And Jennifer was in Crucible with us. And
yes.
She's a professional, a very
successful professional actor
now, and living in Canada. And she's going to be a guest on this show. So we just wanted to say hi to Eric. And watching, and they're loving this.
Yeah.
And then on a little more serious note, one person watching, Michael McGinnity, asked this. I'll just say exactly what he said. Are there some plays out there that can continue to keep this anti-racism topic top of mind?
Some plays you find particularly wonderful that you like maybe that you could list for us?
That speaks against racism.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you've got your staple in Day of Absence. Are y'all familiar with that one?
I know that play. I didn't see it, but I read it a while back.
So you got Day of Absence.
It's a good play.
There's several that are coming out now that
oh my God, why am I forgetting the name?
that deals with racism. One of them, what is the name of this thing? We did the reading at the Alley, and I can't think of it now. It wasn't Get Out, but it was something along the lines of Get Out. I can't think of the name of it. And it's a powerful piece too.
What was the one I just watched that was in New York that won the Susan Smith Blackburn? I just blanked on the name. And
Sweat?
No. It's about racism. It's an African American family.
Somethingville, small.
No. Yeah, it was at the theater in Brooklyn, the big theater in Brooklyn, Theater for a New City. Is that it? Yeah, it just won the Susan Smith Blackburn. I think it was even up for the Pulitzer. No, not American, but that's a good one. In the whole first part of it is a Black family that's being shown to us stereotypically how white people would see them.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's so good.
I cannot. I'm going completely blank on names.
This is our
completely blank on names. But
there's supposed to be a really exciting, edgy new Lorraine Hainsbury play that was kept under wraps for a long time.
It was unfinished.
It was unfinished. Yeah.
You're right. I heard about that one too. No, we're gonna have to get a list and then put it when you play this.
Oh, here we go. Look at that. Oh, there is Getting Out by Marsha Norman, but that's
that's something else altogether, though.
That's a different show. Yeah.
That's in 1978-79. You need to go to the 20.
Yeah. Fairview.
Yeah. Well, Jackie's siblings, Drury, is the one who wrote "We Are Proud to Present a Presentation."
Oh, yes, he did. Yes.
That's the playwright from that. Yes.
Well, this play is just like that. It just rips the rug right out from under you. It's the same kind of play. You're just like, what?
Well, that definitely is a great anti-racism play.
I didn't like that play. It upset me. I was crying like a baby. I mean, in other words, that I liked it. But you know what I mean? I was like, oh, no, I can't watch it. I was like, I had to put my hands on my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Marcus Gartley has a piece as well. And I can't think of the name of it, but Marcus Gartley does.
But you know, there's actually a lot of great work out there, which also says something too that it's not getting done enough.
True.
So that's a really good thing for us all to think about. What would I do? Well,
every time someone mentions a play, though, I'm like, how many actors?
Because we have a budget. Like, is it 4 or is it 6? And we talked about that in our first meeting about part of how we pick people. It's a lot.
Fairview's like 8 or 9 actors, and we get 20 actors a
year, basically, so we can pay everyone and yada yada. So.
Yeah. But that being said, the answer is yes. And I'm leaving.
All right.
What you asked me?
Yes. To me.
The answer is yes.
Yay! All right, good. Well, we'll talk about that later. And we'll save that for another day.
A mystery for our audience.
Ooh, mystery, but you'll all know soon enough. Well, we love you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you so much.
And you enjoy this time of reflection and time off. And we expect you back all over our stages, directing and acting when the time is right.
And I want to say publicly, I loved being directed by you over at AD Players in the Guide Committee.
Yes.
And I hope that happens again.
And Alice, please someday let me be directed by you so that I can be a nicer, better person. Because I promise I'm not horrible to work with.
We read that you've worked at every equity theater in Houston except 𝗕𝗃𝗃 and Fourth Wall. So
you got
we know one of those is going to change eventually.
We'll talk more about that.
I don't know about 𝗕𝗃𝗃.
All right, good. Well, go have a nice evening. Good night to Sir Prince. And we will talk to you very soon.
Bye.
Love you, love you, love you. Talk with you later. This was a lot of fun.
Good
Yes.
night, everybody. And thanks for joining us, everyone who did. And we'll see you next week with, I believe, Jennifer Laporte.
Oh, great.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theatre Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to support Fourth Wall with a tax-deductible gift or to subscribe to our upcoming 10th anniversary season.
Do you want to see our dog edition now, too?
She just jumped out.
Oh my God, look at that. What's that?
That's Amanda.
God, Sir Prince, we got a new puppy. It's a new puppy. You gonna say hello? Come here.
All right.
Come here.
Well, that's our last. This will be our little moment before we. I know we'll have to have a play date later.
Yes.
I know.
Look at that, Prince. He's like, what is going on? Just put me down. I have to look out for the house.
Get me out of here.